You've seen the movie, right? The 2019 Joker film was massive. It wasn't just a hit, it was a whole cultural moment. But it left everybody with this one huge, nagging question. What is actually going on with Arthur Fleck? Well, let's try and figure that out.
This line from his journal, wow. It just hits you, right? It perfectly captures his struggle. And it tells us right away, this isn't just a story about one guy losing it. It's about how a whole society can just look away.
So what's the deal? Is he a psychopath? A tragic victim? Maybe he's a symbol for something much bigger. Or is it all of the above? We're going to dig into the evidence, looking at Arthur from a few different angles to see if we can get some answers.
Okay, first things first. Let's put on our clinical hats. Imagine Arthur Fleck actually walks into a doctor's office. Based on everything we see in the movie, what would a real diagnosis look like?
You know that laugh, right? That uncontrollable, almost painful laughter? Well, it turns out that's not just some weird, made-up movie thing. It's a real neurological condition called pseudobulbar affect, or PBA. And the movie ties it right back to a severe head injury he got as a kid. So, and this is key, his laughing isn't something he's choosing to do, it's something happening to him. So that covers the physical, the neurological side. But what about what's going on inside his head psychologically? Well, another analysis points to something else, narcissistic personality disorder. And this one isn't about his laugh. It's about his deepest desires, his daydreams, and his total inability to connect with other people.
Okay, so if you look at the official checklist for psychiatrists, the DSM-5, an analysis by Dr. Valentin Skrabian found that Arthur checks a lot of the boxes. Look at this. He's got 5 out of the 9 criteria for NPD. That's his fantasy of being a star, his imaginary girlfriend, his craving for applause, and his chilling lack of empathy. And here's the kicker. You only need 5 for an official diagnosis. So clinically, yeah, he fits the bill.
Right, so we have some labels. But a label only tells you what. It doesn't tell you why. To really get at the root of his actions, we have to go deeper, into the world of psychoanalysis.
Think of the mind, according to Freud, as having 3 parts. You've got the id, which is your raw animal impulse. I'm angry, I want to hit something. Then there's the superego, the goody two-shoes rule follower. And in the middle, you have the ego, trying to play referee. With Arthur, that referee has totally left the building. The whole system is just collapsing. And you can actually see his ego trying and failing to keep it together. Remember when his boss totally humiliates him? The id is screaming for blood. But the ego steps in and finds a different target, sublimation. Instead of punching his boss, he just absolutely destroys those trash bags. It's like a pressure valve, right? A temporary fix before everything really blows. And that's not the only trick his mind tries to pull. When he gets jumped by those teenagers, he just brushes it off. Oh, it was just a bunch of kids. That's called rationalization. He's trying to shrink the trauma to make it feel manageable. But you can just see the cracks in the dam getting bigger and bigger. Okay, let's zoom out for a second. Arthur Fleck isn't some brand new character. He's the latest link in a very long chain. To really get what this movie is doing, you have to understand the history of the Joker himself. The Joker's story is all over the place. He starts out in the 40s as a straight-up homicidal maniac. Then, the censors in the 50s turned him into this goofy, harmless prankster. The 70s brought the killer back. And then, and this is a big one, 1988's The Killing Joke gave him that tragic backstory as a failed comedian. Sound familiar? Yep, that was a huge inspiration for this film. And that's really the whole point of the Joker, isn't it? His origin story is supposed to be a mystery. This quote from The Killing Joke says it all. I prefer it to be multiple choice. The 2019 movie just leans into that hard. Arthur's the ultimate unreliable narrator. We, the audience, are left wondering what was real and what was all in his head. And that right there, that ambiguity, mixed with the really raw violence and mental health stuff, is why the movie blew up. It started this huge, intense debate. So why? Why did this particular version of the Joker hit such a nerve? I mean, even the experts couldn't agree. On one hand, you had mental health professionals saying the film was dangerous, that it just fed into the old, tired stereotype linking mental illness and violence. But then, on the other hand, you had a neurocriminologist calling it a great educational tool for showing how someone could be pushed to that point. And this wasn't some small academic debate. We're talking about the first R-rated movie ever to make over $1 billion. $1 billion! This movie wasn't just seen, it was a global phenomenon that forced everyone to talk about some really uncomfortable stuff. In the end, I think the film's real power is that it just refuses to give you a simple answer. Remember when Arthur's on TV and he says humor is subjective? Well, the movie is saying his whole story is subjective too. He's kind of like a mirror. Whether you see a villain, a victim, or something else, well, that might say more about you than it does about him.
So, that brings us back to the big question. After looking at all the evidence, what's your take? Is he a clinical case study of NPD and PBA? Is he a psychoanalytic example of a mind that's just completely broken under pressure? Or is he a product of a sick society? The film lays out the case file, but you get to be the final judge.